Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're pulling back the curtain on a massive, highly organized threat that targets the absolute core of our financial system, trust. We're going to explore what researchers are calling the impersonation economy. We'll look at exactly how criminals borrow the authority of institutions you already trust just to manipulate you into handing over your money. And look, this isn't about isolated incidents or, gullible people making silly mistakes. This is a highly sophisticated psychological and technological operation.
To really anchor the sheer scale of this problem, just consider this number: over £92 million. That is the staggering amount of money lost in the UK in 2025 alone, specifically to organizational impersonation scams. We're talking fake bank staff, bogus police officers, phony government officials. And this financial devastation, it was spread across over 24,000 confirmed cases. So we are talking about an industrial-scale operation here, targeting thousands of people every single year.
So how do we actually define this threat? Well, the impersonation economy isn't just a single type of scam. It's a highly adaptable, reusable fraud technique. Criminals are combining stolen personal data, communication spoofing, artificial intelligence, and these vast money mule networks. Their ultimate goal is to borrow authority. You see, they don't want to build trust with you from scratch. That takes too much time. They want to hijack the trust you already have in your bank, your utility provider, or law enforcement, and then use that trust completely against you.
Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the business of fake trust. Then, we'll break down the anatomy of a scam. Third, we'll examine how AI is escalating this new threat. Fourth, we'll track where the money actually goes. And finally, we'll look at stopping the impersonation economy.
All right, part 1. The business of fake trust, weaponizing authority. Think of this as a Trojan horse strategy. Financial services completely depend on you recognizing your bank and responding to their security warnings, right? While criminals exploit those exact expectations. A fraudster calling you doesn't have to convince you they're trustworthy. They just have to convince you they're your bank. And to make this fake identity convincing, they reinforce their borrowed authority using your own personal data. They pull from public social media profiles, dark web data breaches, past phishing attempts, and even legally available commercial datasets. They might address you by name, know exactly who your phone provider is, or reference a recent purchase you made. Then, they combine this tailored information with intense urgency to completely restrict your decision-making environment. Basically, they make sure you don't have time to think or verify.
To see just how targeted this gets, let's look at this specific example. In just the first half of 2025, there were over 4,400 reports of criminals impersonating the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA. Now, why the FCA? Because it's a regulator known for consumer protection and helping you get your money back. Criminals were calling victims, often targeting folks age 56 or above, claiming they had recovered stolen crypto assets. They used the ultimate false authority of a protective watchdog to extract an advance fee from people who, tragically, may have already been victims of a previous scam.
Section 2. Anatomy of a Scam, the Managed Journey.
A successful scam is rarely just one quick phone call. It is actually a carefully managed, multi-actor customer journey perfectly designed to break down your defenses over time. First, there's an initial contact, really just to see if you'll respond. If you do, they escalate. You might be transferred to a supervisor or a police investigator, creating this illusion that multiple independent organizations are suddenly involved. Third, they isolate you. They'll insist on strict confidentiality while mimicking legitimate customer service procedures to seem totally authentic. Finally, once you are completely isolated and panicked, they guide you to make a controlled payment using fast, irreversible methods. Think bank transfers, crypto, or even handing cash directly to a courier.
Now, what's truly chilling is how fraudsters anticipate banking security. According to the source material, quote, criminals prepare victims to describe the transaction as a property purchase, family loan, or personal investment. They literally coach victims on how to lie to legitimate bank staff. Criminals know that banks have fraud warnings and branch interventions, so they twist those normal security controls, telling the victim that the bank teller is in on the scam or just trying to block a vital investigation. It totally turns the bank's protection into a perceived obstacle.
Section 3. AI and the new threat, escalating deception. I really want to pose this question directly to you. Can you trust your own eyes and ears? Historically, if you recognized a voice on the phone, or saw familiar caller ID, or looked at a perfectly branded website, well, that was enough proof of identity. But today, relying on visual and audio familiarity is a dangerously outdated notion. Just look at the modern criminal arsenal.
They use spoofed caller IDs so your phone literally says Barclays or local police. They build perfectly cloned banking websites. They use generative AI to write flawless, localized scripts and handle hundreds of victims all at once. They even use voice cloning and deepfakes to imitate your relatives or your CEO, using just a tiny audio sample from social media. And with remote access tools, a fake tech support agent can get into your computer and literally fabricate a fake refund or negative balance right there on your screen just to trigger your panic.
Because of this insane tech arsenal, we have to completely redefine security. Things we used to rely on, like caller ID, correct logos, the little padlock icon on your browser, these are now considered weak authentication. They are incredibly easy to fake. Strong authentication now requires independent verification. That means hanging up, finding the official number on the back of your bank card or your official app, and reaching out through a known, completely separate channel.
And let's be super clear here, this isn't just a consumer problem, there is massive corporate exposure too. Just look at this figure, £28,000. That is the average loss per confirmed case for CEO fraud. Criminals use business email compromise, where they sit quietly inside a genuine corporate email chain, they monitor the invoicing cycles, and they seamlessly intervene right when a high-value payment is due, changing the supplier payment details at the absolute last second.
Section 4. Where the money goes. The mule network. So what happens the moment a victim actually hits send? How does the money disappear so fast? Well, it happens terrifyingly fast. Within minutes of a victim authorizing a payment, the funds hit a money mule account. This could be a recruited individual or a completely synthetic fake identity. Within hours, the money is fractured, divided up, and transferred onward to multiple linked beneficiary accounts, just to confuse investigators. And on the exact same day, it's converted into borderless crypto assets or withdrawn as hard cash, vanishing from the traditional banking system entirely.
Because the money moves that fast, relying solely on the victim's bank just isn't enough anymore. Recipient-side monitoring is absolutely central to impersonation scam prevention. The bank receiving the funds needs to look for the broader pattern. Multiple transfers from unrelated victims all landing in one single account, followed by rapid pass-through activity. Stopping one victim is great for sure, but identifying and shutting down the entire mule network, that prevents losses across multiple institutions simultaneously.
Section 5. Stopping the impersonation economy, the resilience stack.
So how do we actually fight back? Building a resilient control stack requires action from both sides. For us consumers, the power lies in independent verification. If someone calls asking for money, just hang up and call the official number. Never grant remote access to an unexpected caller. And always, always read your one-time passwords carefully to ensure they match the exact transaction you intend to make. For institutions, they have to monitor for behavioral departures, like a customer suddenly liquidating all their savings. They need rapid information sharing across different banks, and they must give victims targeted, specific warnings that actually interrupt the fraudster's narrative rather than generic alerts that victims are already coached to ignore.
Now, on the regulatory side, there is some good news for consumer protection. As of October 7, 2024, the UK implemented mandatory reimbursement for eligible authorized push payment scams, protecting victims up to £85,000. This is a massive step in reducing the personal financial devastation. However, we do have to be clear here. Reimbursement is protection, not prevention. Even if the consumer gets their money back from the bank, if the funds have already moved through that mule network we talked about, the criminal economy still gets to keep the stolen money.
To summarize the sheer gravity of this threat, I want to leave you with this really powerful quote from the source material. Impersonation fraud turns legitimate trust into a criminal control mechanism. The very systems designed to keep us safe, like security warnings, fraud alerts, the authority of law enforcement, they are being hijacked and weaponized to control our decisions in moments of engineered panic.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought. As you navigate your digital life, answering calls from your bank or responding to urgent emails from your boss, ask yourself, are your daily transactions truly verified or just convincingly manipulated? The next time urgency and authority come knocking, remember to take a breath, break the connection, and verify it independently. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep your guard up out there.